Welcome to the Healers Café, the #1 show for medical practitioners and holistic healers to have heart-to-heart conversations about their day-to-day lives while sharing their expertise for improving your health and wellness. So, welcome to the Healers Café. And today I have with me Yvonne Caputo. And she is a teacher. She's also an author and a psychotherapist. And there's much we can talk about, but I think the focus of our time together will be actually on her last book, in which she had to spend time with her dying father and looking at all of the wishes and everything that comes up at that time. And so I thought, let's go straight to the point if you're good with that, Yvonne.
I'm good with that. I'm very good with that.
Okay.
I worked late in life in a retirement community, and so I saw firsthand what happened when our residents didn't have what's called an advanced directive. And this is the document that says what folks want at the end of life and who can speak for them if they can't speak for themselves. And that's a document that I did with my father once I learned how necessary it was to have one of those. And then along came a document called the 5 Wishes. And this is an advanced directive on heart. And what it does that a normal advanced directive doesn't do is talk about some other kinds of things that somebody might wish to have. All right, so how did Dad want to be remembered? What did he want his children to know? Did he want a funeral? If so, what did that funeral look like? The really kind of intimate questions that would really give me all the information that I needed should I need to make a decision on his behalf. And that's exactly what happened.
Wow.
He had been in the hospital and he lived on the other side of the state, which was a 6.5-hour drive. We had been there with him. We had come home. He called me really angry, really angry. I'm holding the phone out here. And he said, "Why did you tell the hospital that I could go home?" Now I let him rant and rave. I knew he needed to just get this out of his system. And when it ended, I said, "Dad," I said, "you could go home when you were ready. It doesn't sound like you were ready." And right as soon as I said that, he said, "Yvonne, can you come home? I'm scared." I said, "I will be there tomorrow." All right. So I made all kinds of arrangements for someone to come and stay with him so he wasn't alone. And I got to my childhood home, and 2.5 hours later, he was gone. And
Wow.
yeah, it went exactly the way he wanted it to.
Mm.
And so my passion is, because you're so into holistic medicine has to include us talking about our final wishes when it comes that time, because it's going to come.
Yep.
Nobody escapes it. And it has made my grieving process so much easier because I knew what Dad wanted. I knew what to do. People who read my first book said, "Where'd you find the courage? Why didn't you want to save his life if it could be saved? What made you do what you did?" Well, I had come to have this really strong relationship with my father, and he was very clear. If I don't have 75% quality of life, please let me go. And I knew from the way that the EMTs were talking, he wasn't going to have that quality of life. So I went into automatic pilot. called the hospital. There was a do not resuscitate order on his chart. And I said, please get that to the emergency room, because at the time they were going to bring Dad in. But Grace surrounded me. And the emergency room doctor called the house and said, you can stop working on him.
Wow.
So Dad's wish, his dream, was to go feet first out of his own home. And that's exactly what happened. You know, what he meant by that was that going out of his house, he was going to be gone and on a gurney. And so what I say is that they parked the gurney at the end of the ambulance. They needed to go in and have Dad pronounced. The light was shining on Dad's face from the back of the ambulance. And there was this soft, sweet smile. And I knew we had done it. And
Right.
we had done it together.
So
Yeah.
that. I mean, I think that's it's a wish that a lot of people, as they get older, if they're not in the right crowds, don't talk about. It depends on, the consciousness of those around them. And, and it's not true that there aren't clear wishes. So it's easy to fail by, resuscitating when they don't want it, or rushing them to the hospital when they would rather not be there, or just stay home, whatever it might be that, because people know when it's their time, right? And I think, and how wonderful to actually give that wish. And, I know that, okay, at least you lose them, but you lose them how they want to go, so that's wonderful.
It was such an indication to me about how much my father trusted me to do what he asked. There was this bond, there was this trust. And that was his gift to me. So do I grieve my father's loss? Absolutely. Would I love to cook him one more unhealthy pot roast dinner? Absolutely. But equal to the sorrow that I sometimes feel in missing him, there's this sacred joy. I don't have that joy with my mother, losing my mother. We didn't know what she wanted.
Right.
She had dementia in the end. And the last conversation I had with her on the phone, she was screaming, get me out of here. She was in the hospital. I lost a brother. We didn't know what his wishes were. So the trauma of going through the funeral, the burial, what did we miss with those two people? It just wasn't there with Dad. It was something entirely different. And the result of the book has given me a lot of inspiration. When you write a book, there are a group of people that read it before it's published, and they give you feedback in terms of what it meant. Was it missing anything? Did you cover all the bases? And 3 people had stories to tell me. One was a young woman in her 40s. Her parents had approached her. We want to talk about this. And she would go, oh, don't be silly. That's not going to happen for a long time. I don't want to talk about it. After she read the book, she went to her parents and said, I'm ready to talk. What are your wishes when the time comes?
Great.
The second person was a much older gentleman, and he and I talked on the phone as well. And he said, I didn't know I needed to do that stuff. I had no idea that that was something that I could do. And so later on, I heard from him, and he did his 5 wishes. And he talked to his daughters and said, I want to Zoom on my birthday. And here's what I want to do. I want to talk about my 5 wishes. I want you guys to know what I want when I go. So they're doing this kind of thing, and they get to burial. And he said, I want to be cremated. And the daughter said, well, what would you like us to do with your ashes? And he said, I don't care, throw them over a bridge. I mean, at that point, what does it matter? And they said, Dad, wouldn't you like your ashes scattered out on the farm? And this is where he was raised as a child. He said, oh, that's too much trouble. The response was, Dad, what if we'd like to do that for you? So he changed his 5 wishes and wrote that section so that his daughters could do this last loving act for him. And then the third was a woman who was chronically ill. Surgery after surgery after surgery. And none of them really worked. And she was in constant pain. And when she read the book, she went and got the 5 wishes. She did it and discussed it with her family. And she was in my writers group. And we got a note that she had chosen hospice. And her husband made it possible for us to talk to her. And 8 minutes was all she could do with me. She just got exhausted. But in that 8 minutes, she talked about the 5 wishes. She talked about her family being okay. They understood. So she could die in peace.
What would your life be like if you were pain-free? If you were one of the millions who suffer from chronic pain, the thought of just one day without it may seem impossible. This is often because conventional medicine tends to fall short in the treatment of pain, opting to prescribe pills or recommend surgery rather than getting to the root cause of the problem. But if you are suffering with emotional or physical pain, there is hope. Join the founder and CEO of Bowen College, Manon Bolliger, live online for your body-mind reboot. Learn how to listen to your symptoms and get to the root cause of your pain. Plus, be trained in basic Bowen therapy moves so that you can reboot your body for optimal health. You don't have to live in pain. You can heal. Stop the pain pill cycle by visiting www.yourbodymindreboot.com to learn more and to register.
Knowing that her family was okay with her choice. So those 3 stories are something that have impacted me about the beauty of having tough conversations. They're not easy, but they are possible.
Yeah. I think we're a society who avoids tough conversations in general, and I think it's in general, we want to do something that helps others. So it's like, why not discuss it, or helps, or puts at ease or at peace, so I feel like it's a very relevant one. I lost my mom a couple of years ago, and she really did she died exactly how she wanted to. And I mean, we had it down to even the obituary. She wanted to write it so it would say exactly what she wanted it, so we're 3 daughters, and we were laughing, kind of going, oh my God, it's not going to be right until she nixes this and adds this, and but the point is, that was her obituary, and it was her way, her style of and she was in terrible pain, and she just didn't want hospital or resuscitation. She wanted us all around, and that's exactly how it happened. And and it was and we laughed about it, all together, because it was a big teaching for us as well.
Absolutely. And to laugh about it is not macabre. I mean, it's what you do. Dad, I would call him on the phone and I'd say, how are you? And he said, oh, I'm so ready to go. And I'd say, tell
Yeah.
me. And he would.
Mm.
You know, what was going on. He was tired of this. He was tired of that. He just was ready. And then it became such an easy conversation with us that I would call and I would say, where are you on this wanting to go thing? And sometimes we'd talk about it. And then at other times he would say, oh, Yvonne, I've had such good days. I'm not quite ready yet. It probably just isn't time.
Right.
So we would go back and forth like that. And my dad was Roman Catholic.
Mhm.
So we get to the talking to the priest to arrange for the funeral to do that.
Mhm.
And my brother said, well, I'm not sure how this works. And I said, well, this is what Dad wants. Wants this, wants this, wants this, wants this, doesn't want that. He absolutely said, do not let people stand up and talk about me at the funeral. Because if they haven't said it to my face, I don't want them saying it at the funeral. So even the fun kind of things. The 5 Wishes asked if Dad wanted to be an organ donor. He said, absolutely not. Who in the world will want these old organs, and what good would they be anyway? So that's a document that can be purchased for $5 from 5wishes.org. It's legal in 42 states, and it sets it up in such a way that your healthcare agent is chosen, the medical care you want or do not want. My dad said, I want to be comfortable. I want to be out of pain. And he said, I know and I've read that morphine can make it go quicker, but at that point, who cares? You know, he was able to say those kinds of things, but he was also able to talk about how he wanted to be remembered.
Mhm.
I asked my father that, and he said, for my work with the Red Cross.
Mhm.
I discovered later 41 years with the Red Cross.
Mhm.
Not his participation in World War II did he want to be remembered for, but that was the thing. So I learned a great deal from him. And then I'll go back to the funeral. You know, it was planned. He took the wear and tear off us in that he was so clear. He had the funeral paid for. He had his will done.
Mhm.
Now, he didn't tell us where some of the documents were, but a lot of the things that would just maybe even cause arguments in the family didn't exist because he was so prepared.
Yeah. Mhm. No, I think that's a really other important aspect to this is, say it to our faces, if there's going to be issues, or if you want to give this, in, my mom's case, this jewelry to this daughter and this one to that one, it's better it to our faces, and then it's like clear this is her wish, and it's not about, well, I prefer blue or I prefer green or whatever, or the stupid things that come up when people are uncomfortable, right? It's not usually truly a deep issue. It's more, it sets off because there's so much untalked, in these circumstances. So I think that's important. My dad, when he passed away, he said he wants to be celebrated. He wants a celebration. He doesn't need any, there's so much good parts in his life. That's what he wants to celebrate. And that's how he wants to be remembered. And I remember he died quite a few years back, but I remember thinking, okay, let's do that, and it's funny because that's where I focused my attention. And it's like, it was so much easier, it was another way of doing it, and I was younger too. So I guess I was more, that's how we're going to do it. Okay, fine. We'll just focus there. And if anyone goes into this big, heavy discussion of, oh, that's not what his wish is. So, we move on, right?
Yeah, a very dear friend of mine called me. She had gotten the 5 Wishes. And she was going over it with me, and she said, well, I'm thinking about this, and I'm not sure how my family would react to this. I said, Mary, what do you want?
Mm-hmm.
And then she brought up something else, and I went back there to her and I said, Mary, what do you want? This is about you. This is about how you would like things to be. And she did that. And she said, she sat down with her daughter and they went over the document. She said it was one of the closest, loving, moving times of her life with that child, is that they could sit and talk about, and now the daughter has all of the room in the world to do what her mother wanted.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, interesting. Yeah. So
Yeah.
how are you getting this book out? How are people finding out about it?
I do podcasts.
Okay.
I write blogs for Psychology Today. I do Facebook. I do LinkedIn. My website is with my publisher, Ingenium Books. So Ingenium Books, Yvonne Caputo, will take you right to the page where you'll see a lot about the 2 books that I've written. But I'm my own marketer. The book was published independently, so I go wherever I can, talk wherever I can, do whatever I can to get the word out.
Yeah. And what about like not hospitals, but hospices? Are they open to having this type of help? You've spread the word there, yeah.
Yeah, I've talked to hospices. When I finished my 5 wishes, I took a copy of it to my personal care physician. He opened a closet and there was a stack of 5 wishes there, which was great because then, he has the opportunity to hand it out and say, take a look at this. I've done book signings. I've done workshops. Anything that I can think of that will get the word out, I will do.
Well, great. Well, thank you so much for spending time with me and sharing this knowledge and your path to it.
Well, I'm very grateful because it so fits in with what you do. And that's holistic medicine, taking a look at different ways of healing beyond what we're provided with. So there's nothing more whole than having that conversation with somebody that you love. And my children and I have had those. I've been really clear with them. And I know that it's probably time for me to, I haven't my 5 wishes are probably like 3 years old. It's time for me to go in and read it and maybe do it again.
Right.
Have I changed?
That's right. Yeah. I did. I noticed that with my mom, who talked about dying for a long time, actually. But her wishes had changed so much over time. So I think the idea of revisiting them and not being stuck, because it'd be awful to be on the last moments going, oh no, where's the last copy? Or I didn't write it down, quickly take notes, that would be, a lot of humor I could see, but it maybe not appropriate in such a, last minute. It's good to be a little more prepared for everyone's sake,
Well, working in a retirement community, one of the things that I did as a normal part of my responsibility was training. And I would say, if one of the residents says to you, I want to go, please just say, tell me.
Right.
Tell me. What is it? What makes you say something like that? And I learned from those wonderful people because they would stop in my office and maybe we were talking about something else, but it would come up.
Right.
And that's what I did. Tell me.
Yeah.
And these were people who were old,
Mhm.
They were tired. They missed their spouses. They weren't doing the things that they loved. They weren't getting around as easily. They weren't afraid. They would welcome it. And it was, these are not people who were suicidal. I didn't see any of that in their conversations. It was just a readiness for the final chapter.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, thank you so much, Yvonne.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for joining us at the Healers Café. If you haven't already done so, please like, comment, and subscribe with notifications on, as I post a new podcast every Wednesday with tons of useful information and tips for natural healing that you won't want to miss.